What inspired me to enter healthcare in the beginning actually was my mother. Like many of us, our parents have a great influence on us. My mother became ill when I was only 7 years old, but I really, paid a lot of attention, took a lot of care and attention with my mother. I mean, it was at that moment that I knew. I mean, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. I knew that I wanted to be in healthcare. I knew I wanted to help people. So much so that initially my college path led me to nursing. I had studied nursing in high school, and we had a program there in high school that we worked half a day, and then we could go and work at the hospital. And then I entered college, and that was going to be my career of choice. But along the way, I learned more about healthcare administration. And I wanted to be at the bedside, but I really wanted to do something that was going to really impact people's lives in ways of policy formation and regulatory. And so that's when I got on the path of healthcare administration. I did not know it would lead me to long-term care, but after helping individuals is just what I do best. It's my passion. It's who I am. And I strive each and every day to make sure that I continue to care for those who are underserved or less fortunate than the rest of us may be. And so that's why I chose that career path in healthcare. My mother, oh my goodness, my mother, and I know we all have these wonderful stories about our parents, but my mother is just the best. She is just the epitome of womanhood. She had aspirations, actually. She was born in a rural town of Louisiana. She actually had aspirations of going to college, becoming a teacher. And that was her goal. And so basically she got married right out of high school, like many girls of her age and from her background did and community at that time. She got married and she began to have kids. And I mean, she put all of that pretty much on the back burner. So the inspiration is that I did a lot of things that she wanted to do, but I didn't even know that at the time until I started evolving as a woman. I realized that these are the things that she wanted to do. And I was like, okay, but I was on my own journey. Everywhere that I went, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I took my mother with me. That's what a big influence and impact that she has had on my life. Everywhere. To college, she didn't go to college. My mother is still with me, was with me. When I pledged, she embodies everything that Delta believes in. In fact, we had to write an essay of why we wanted to become part of a sorority, be part of a particular sorority. And I remember my essay very well. It was about my mother because, she embodied all of those principles, that Delta stood for. So she has impacted me so much so that even now, today, we still have such a strong relationship. She continues to be with me on weekends. I have no children. She has 6 children. I used to always tease her. I didn't have children because I was helping you with your children. That's not true, but I tease her about that. She is just such an inspiration. And I don't know if she knows, no matter how many times I tell her that she is really the reason that I am who I am today because of her influence in my life. Oh, let me tell you about Barbara Charline Jordan. This lady is my girl, I'm telling you. Barbara Charline Jordan, she's an African-American lawyer, a politician. She was a legacy and a leader in civil rights. I had heard about Ms. Jordan several years ago. However, I've mentioned her name to several people before, and they're like, oh, I've never heard of her. Google her. I say, now you know. But she grew up in Houston, Texas, in a community, an impoverished community. It's called Fifth Ward, and it has become historical. I grew up very close proximity to where she lived. I attended the high school that she attended, which is Phyllis Wheatley Senior High School, who's actually named after a slave. We attended Texas Southern university together, and I felt that I was on her path and I didn't even know it. So years later, after I started researching her and learning about her, we had so much in common. Now we're talking about a lady who was born several years before I was, decades before I was, but here's someone with the same similarities and who cared for people, who was a champion for civil rights and the underdog, and she was just phenomenal. Basically, she was the first person of color to be elected to the Texas Senate. She was also the first representative elected to the U.S. House of Representatives from a southern state. I mean, this lady was awesome. The most memorable thing that I remember about several of them, but one of the most memorable events in her life is when she was on the Judiciary Committee during the Watergate incident. Oh my goodness. When she stepped on that stage, then we're talking about a lady, she had to be about 6 feet tall and, a big stature woman. I mean, just awesome. Her voice, her body was as big as her voice. And she started talking about the Constitution and upholding the Constitution and the laws. I mean, everybody's mouth just flew open. I mean, the whites, the blacks, the red, I mean, all ethnicities was wondering, who is this lady? She was so eloquent in her speech and so learned as well from these humble beginnings. While I was working as a nursing assistant, and this just really touched me, she became ill, and she became a frequent patient at the hospital where I was, Methodist Hospital in Houston, Texas, in the Med Center. I mean, it is a awesome hospital. I got to care for her. And of course, I got to learn more and more about her, more than I had known in the past. She had different visits, maybe once a month. She was getting specialized treatment. One of the times I said, okay, we have become really close. I became her nursing assistant. Some of the other staff was saying, Sandra, your girl is here, because by this time they knew I was just fascinated with her. She had some notoriety. She would come in on the ground level. So I would say to her, Miss Jordan, well, let's go around the back where the service entrance was, instead of coming through the front, because I knew so many people would stop and want to take pictures and just to be close to her. She said, Sandra, I've come through the back all of my life. We always had to go through the back doors. She said, take me to the front. It just embodied everything that people of color, in my mind, and people in color in the U.S. and in certain states had to go through. And she said, no, I have done everything I was supposed to do. I went to college. I went to Boston College to get the PhD. She said, I've done all of that. It's time for me to go through the front door. And so I've never really forgotten that. And she has just impacted me so much. And at this point, I didn't even know that she actually was a member of Delta Sigma Theta. Of course, I wanted to be a member of the sorority as well. She actually died the year that I pledged. So I just have so many fun memories of her. And just as I read now, it has just resonated to me that as African Americans, we have come a very long way in this country and in certain states. And the front door is where we belong.